Hi, I'm Judy Teven back with a new installment of our MTSS web series. Now, if you've followed my series, you know that I've walked through all aspects of the MTSS process, from identifying students for tiers to progress monitoring to the intervention itself. So, one important type of data to highlight is norm reference percentile scores. This data is super relevant to managing student tier placement and movement. Nationally normed referenced scores are used to determine which students in a school or district are recommended for intervention services. Using nationally normed data allows you to see where your students stand in comparison to the larger group interacting with that same assessment. So before we dive into the more specifics, let's define a norm reference score. A norm reference score compares an individual's performance with the performance of others within a relevant norm group. Okay, so for example, when looking at all second grade students around the nation, where does this second grade student fall in comparison? So one commonly reported norm reference score includes percentile rankings, right? Percentile ranks are useful when assessing students' performance relative, again, to their peers. So how does this work in ClassWorks? ClassWorks assessments measure growth on a vertical scale. Measuring growth vertically serves a dual purpose. So you're going to track growth and learning gains for individual students and determine whether learning must be accelerated to catch up a student who's behind. The ClassWorks Universal Screener then looks at those scores by grade level to assign norm reference percentile scores for all grades and subjects. This is a true national norm. Okay, so you may ask, why should I look outside of just my own school or district scores? Well, looking beyond your own scores gives districts an additional perspective about expectations for student scores outside of their own district. And this really does help you set goals for the future and help with planning for improvement and growth for, again, your school or district. So, how else are percentile ranks used? Percentile ranks provide an easily decodable system of identifying test taker standings relative to, again, others taking that same test. This information is vital to seeing where students fall among their peers. Right? So this then allows schools to identify those students at or below the national normed 25th percentile as being potentially at risk. So for example, a district that uses the ClassWorks Universal Screener to identify fourth grade students who are at risk for having problems in math will consider all students who scored at or below a 330 on the fall administration of the screener for specific intervention services. Okay, so our Universal Screener Results RTI Recommendations report provides this information. This report will show the student's scaled score, their percentile rank, along with the grade level equivalencies for all domains, as well as the overall score. And then the list is broken down by intervention groups to easily see who needs intervention. Now, these percentile ranks play an important part in tier identification. So typically, ClassWorks recommends using the following percentiles for potential tier placement. So tier 1 falls above 25%. That percentile, tier 2 between 10% and 25%, and tier 3 is the 10th percentile and below. Now, there are times you've seen this upside down pyramid a couple of times if you've been keeping up with the web series, that this may not fit your student population, right? So keep in mind, these cut scores are based on national aggregated norms and may not align with the resulting percentages for your district. We talked about that tier 1 instructional challenge, right? Because ideally 80% of your students in your district fall into that tier 1 category. So if less than 80% are scoring above the 25th percentile, then the recommendation beyond providing interventions for students is to step back and evaluate the quality of that tier 1 curriculum in the classroom, right? And possibly look at involving more professional development for teachers. We think about this like this upside down triangle. So in this situation, a cut score at the 25th percentile may identify more or less than 25% of your students, right? So depending on the skill level of the class, the grade, or even the school. So in this situation, districts might consider choosing a cut score that reflects the performance ability of students enrolled in their districts. So in such an event, review all your screener results for a big picture view to determine which students need intervention, right? And look at the entire list and pull out that bottom 25% in that group. There is so much to consider when placing students in intervention. Percentile scores and ranking play a vital role in not only giving you perspective about where students fall on that larger scale, but also reflects the effectiveness of your curriculum. Once students are assigned to tiers, progress monitoring serves as an additional ongoing testing to help plan the type of support needed for this group of students. Students begin progress monitoring to assess skills at their performance level, and this provides additional insight into student skill readiness and further refines the student's individualized learning instruction, which is ultimately their intervention. Progress monitoring is essential to keeping a close eye on student growth. Understanding the effectiveness of intervention is key to student success, right? So if a student is not responding to intervention, it's time to change the intervention or the intervention level, right? It's really important to see that big picture. Classwork's progress monitoring is directly tied to the universal screener because it uses that same vertical scale. It's informing that student individualized learning and ultimately shows you how students are progressing toward mastering grade level curriculum. So use those norm reference percentiles to make this data even more meaningful. For example, we see Clark's progress monitoring here. He is making really nice progress. In fact, this data supports a next step of stopping this set of probes to move him up to the next level. While at 380, he is still in the 10th percentile for his grade level, right? His performance is showing that he is responding to the intervention and is ready to increase the level of his progress monitoring and, of course, in turn, of the intervention within a very short period of time. As this score moves up, Clark's individualized assignment is adjusted to reflect the new skills he is ready to learn. So have Clark set a goal. Maybe his next goal is to hit 400 to get to the 20th percentile, and then 420, etc. Having clear goals builds student ownership of each accomplishment. Students can quickly move toward grade level readiness, and isn't that what it's all about? So thank you again so much for joining me today. As always, reach out to Classworks if you have any questions or you need any more information. Thanks so much, everybody.